This class is on Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diseases. Two important diseases, especially if you plan to work with older adults. So what is Parkinson's disease? It affects about 1% of the population of adults older than age 60, about 1 million Americans and 5 million worldwide. Now we do think associate it with older persons, but it can be diagnosed in younger persons, as we all know, as what happened to Michael J. Fox. So it was described by Dr. James Parkinson, 1817. So the region of the brain affected is what's called the substantia nigra. It's part of the basal ganglion. We have some photos of that coming up. So the main pathophysiology is a loss of dopamine production. So that affects a person's coordination. So the neurons keep firing without normal control, and they can't block acetylcholine. So here is the region of the brain. So this is if you're looking at the underside of the brain. And if you can actually look on the right-hand side, you can see the atrophied area of the brain. So you can see it has, it is substantially smaller if you look at the cadaver brain. Symptoms of Parkinson's unfortunately do not really occur until there is about 80% of cell destruction. So tremors, so a lot of people develop tremors, may or not be Parkinson's. Bradykinesia, so very, very slow movements, very rigid movements, walking problems, shuffling gait, balance problems. Can have some mental difficulties such as dementia, although a person may not necessarily have Alzheimer's. The slower sit-to-stand times and increased kyphosis. So we just did that with astute posture. Risk factors, typically older adults over age 60, typical age of onset can be anywhere from 40 and higher. Usually more men than women, usually more Caucasians than other groups. So environmental factors, of course, this has been in the news a lot, blows to the head, boxers, we all know Muhammad Ali, Parkinson's, worry about other athletes who sustain concussions and what that's going to mean as far as their potential risk of Parkinson's long term. Pesticide exposure, so people who work in agriculture can also be at risk. Autoimmune diseases and, mitochondrial dysfunctional diseases. There are some rare genetic forms of Parkinson, but those are really not that common. Okay, other things common in pathophysiology of Parkinson's, freezing. So people feel they're going to freeze. They have trouble getting through doorways. So they definitely have a lot of effects. Their activities of daily living, handwriting, cooking, swallowing, difficulty initiating movement, so turning over in bed, and dressing and bathing. So their speech and their facial expression tend to be affected. Their faces just kind of look very flat, and they really have no affect or emotion. Management and medications of Parkinson's. There are a lot of different medications. These are some of the most common ones. Levodopa, also known as L-Dopa. So that is the precursor to dopamine. So that allows the brain to actually, increase its dopamine levels. Anticholinergics, again, to block ACTH. Monoamine oxidase inhibitors, again, working on the enzymes in the brain. But these medications do tend to have side effects of gastrointestinal distress, confusion, insomnia, and dyskinesia. So, movements that you don't want. So sort of, what do you want to call it? Like almost like a spastic type of movement. The bad news is medications really lose their effectiveness over time.